direct conversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration ain't late me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me.
Thank you, Vandello, and welcome back to Rhett Conversations. My name is Josh Wasta, and with me, blood makes noise, and she can't really hear you in the thickening of fear. It's Leia Cameron.
Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about a man who doesn't fear,
Except when he does.
Except when he does, and we're gonna have a good time.
Yes. And with us, returning guest and person that, through no fault of his own, seems to just pick these very fun, challenging, weird-ass comics. Kyle Slack. Kyle, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I mean, the universe ate one of our recordings because it was that bad. So
It's true. It's true. So I've done over 150 different episodes of various podcasts, and that is the only one that I've ever lost, and the only one that I feel God just took.
I put lost in quotation marks because it was that bad, and
Oh, the mercy killing of Superman. But today we will be going over Kevin Smith's first gig for Marvel, Guardian Devil.
Picked it.
Yes, Guardian Devil, Daredevil, the Man Without Fear. This was from 1998, and oh boy, can you tell it's from 1998.
I literally, so I was talking about this book with a friend of the podcast, Adam Witt, and he's like, that book is the book that made me want to write comics when I was like a teen. And he's like, I went back and I reread it as an adult. And oh boy, I was like, yeah, I bet this absolutely slapped in the late 1900s. This was probably the shit, right? Like,
So this was also the art for this was done by Joe Quesada, which we should talk about.
Let me be the first to say, boo! It's so bad. It's so fucking bad, y'all. Don't read this book. Audio book. Get the audio book of this book.
The late 90s. Okay, so this book and the way that it is drawn is very reminiscent of the style that was popular in the 90s. That wasn't even necessarily Marvel's like main studio style. This looks a lot more like a Spawn comic than it looks a Daredevil comic. Yeah. And like I said, written by Kevin Smith. Wow.
There's a point in the afterword where he talks about, like, you know, he showed every issue to his wife and she had like glowing praise. And I had a moment where I was like, yeah, you know, like I would have been like, that's great, honey, like as well. Like, you know, wow, this is so good. Like, you know, I don't want to blow up my marriage over this, but
are you sure? I mean, from your reactions, are you sure?
Right. All right. Well, let's just dive into this delicious cookie of a book. For those of you who had not tuned into the show before, this is how it will go. The presenting professor is Professor L for this one, and she will be taking Kyle all the way through Daredevil, Guardian Devil. Normally, I will put in that there are going to be several of these episodes this season. Normally, this would probably be me. However, there is so much X-Men in this season, and as we all know, Leia is allergic to X-Men. She breaks out in anger. Anger and hives.
wow, there's so many graphs. Why?
Maybe you should talk to Charles Xavier about that. I mean,
Right. So Professor L will take Kyle step by step through Guardian Devil. At any time, Kyle has the right, nay, the obligation, to pull the emergency brake on the entire show, ask any question, make any comment, ask for clarification, which, get ready for that. And it will be my job as the assisting professor, Professor J, to answer it. If I cannot, it bounces back to Leia, who likely will be like, I don't fucking know. And at that point, since the Baronessa may join us, I thought that this recording was going to be 2 hours later than it was, so we slept in a little bit. But if the Baronessa is not here, then we will put up our hands, wiggle our fingers, and yell comic books. If she is here, if she does join us halfway through, the questions will just go to her. She will make up an answer. It is now canon. Marvel, put it in your wiki. And with some of the topics in this one, man, I kind of do hope she shows up, because, oh boy,
This is a lot.
This is one of the shorter books that we've done at only 205 pages, and man, Kevin Smith just packed as much as he could into those 205 pages. Yeah. So on that note, take it away, Professor Al.
Yeah, so we're gonna see some shit here. Kevin Smith was very clearly excited to write his first comic book, and he wanted to put in as much as he could. Like in terms of plot, in terms of like tropes, days, word bubbles. Like this book has everything while also being terrible. So, and you know what? And I shouldn't even say that. This is definitely a case where, and we're going to come across this in any type of media, you know, whether it's we're watching TV, movies, or reading comics. There's just some things that are a product of their time that just can't be. They don't stand up to the test of time, right? Like, and this is something like, again, I think it absolutely slapped in the like late 90s, early 2000s. This was probably the absolute shit, especially for people who, like me, grew up alongside, you know, Kevin Smith's, you know, Clerks and everything like that. And the whole, you know, View Askew universe and all that. So people were probably very stoked to read this, and it probably read really well. It does not today in the year of our Lord 2020.
I mean, it is important. You know, we have looked at comics from the 70s and discussed how even when we were, cutting our teeth on comics, you know, in the 90s, it just didn't speak to us. Like, it was too slow. Like the
Right.
Keep in mind, this is a quarter century old.
Yeah.
Don't make us old, Josh.
As I crumble into dust, from drinking from the wrong grail, I will say that this is 25 years old.
Yeah.
So taking that with a grain of salt, and diving into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, okay. So we open up on a letter that is being written to Matt Murdoch by Karen Page, his girlfriend. And the TLDR of this letter is that sorry, we're breaking up. I'm going to take a job on the other side of the country. Good luck out there. I love you, but I can't do this anymore. Goodbye. It goes on for like a really long time, but that's the gist of it, is that, she respects that he's a man of faith. She isn't, but maybe one day she'll pray for them or whatever. Fine. So we cut over to,
is it the Daredevil thing she's leaving him over, or is this a Dear John letter? I don't like that you have religion. I mean, what just kind of is what it is.
So it's a little bit of that. It involves Daredevil. She mentions that she knows he's Daredevil. She also talks about how much he's forgiven her. This is 12 years after Born Again, which was the story in which Karen Page is a porn actress, heroin addict, who, for a hit, gives someone Daredevil's identity. Karen Page is not treated well in the comics in general. And in fact, in Daredevil comics, as we've kind of alluded to in various episodes, and we will really get into it in this one, women are generally not portrayed well in Daredevil comics. Matt is a womanizer. He cannot hold a relationship. This is the closest he's been to something stable. And so basically what she's saying is, he was able to forgive her for basically being a heroin addict and giving up his identity that eventually Fisk got, that caused all of Born Again and yada yada. But she basically says, you never judge me with your voice, but it's always kind of there in your eyes. and I cannot move forward with our past while knowing that's there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of, it is what it is. Got
it.
As somebody whose primary experience with Daredevil was the MCU film, or not film, but the MCU's television series. This is all I was like, okay, whatever.
I mean,
For
when he appeared in like the Spider-Man comic or TV show back when in the 90s.
Oh, the movie. Oh, yeah.
In that movie with obviously, yeah.
Yeah. By the end of this book, you will understand why those of us who had read this and Born Again basically watched Karen Page in the Daredevil TV show with for 3 seasons holding our breath.
Yeah.
Deborah Wall especially did extremely well with it, and they managed to avoid a lot of her tropes.
Yes.
That's good.
So we cut over now, and it to a maternity ward somewhere in New York. It's not specified which one. 2 shadowy men enter the maternity ward at about 11:49 p.m. And moments later, the entire maternity ward seems to go up in flames. We then cut over to a young lady who is frantically running through the streets of New York, carrying a bundle of something that we come to find out is a baby. She was raised in a very religious household, and Catholic specifically. This is important because it's a Daredevil story. And she is 15, and had a child, obviously out of wedlock. Her parents were very disappointed in her. And her parents were then subsequently killed by some men. It's not really explained why, but then she, I guess, left the house with her baby and is on the run. And that's what's happening for now.
So I have a question on what Josh has here.
Yes.
The page before, I'm not Catholic, but I mean, the priest calling him out like that seems a little weird. It's on that.
Right. Yeah. This is a case where I feel like, and actual Catholics, please feel to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm onto something here. I think this is comic book Catholicism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also get this a little bit in the Netflix show. Matt's relationship with his priest. His priest always knows that it's him and does not cut Matt any fucking slack. Which, I mean, I'm sure that there are Catholic priests out there that have a relationship with some of their parishioners that way. That they just understand that they need to be very frank and upfront with them.
Yeah.
But yes, that is specifically the relationship that Matt has with his priest.
For the listeners at home, it's important to note here that I was raised in a very secular household. I am Jewish, and my only real experiences with in-depth Catholicism are Michael Flanagan's Midnight Mass and the Young Pope with Jude Law. Those are my 2 touchstones of Catholic whatever. And also the Daredevil Netflix series. So you can see that my education in this is very lacking, and I apologize in advance if you're Catholic and feel disrespected by this entire comic.
So the other thing from this, it sounds like from looking here that he's saying his girlfriend left him 6 months ago. So is this supposed to be 6 months after the letters that we saw? Right? Okay, I wasn't sure. Time skip sometimes in comics is weird.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, he's sitting in a confession booth talking to a priest about how his girlfriend left him, and he's very sad. But then he gets distracted because he can hear some heartbeats, specifically one of a girl who is around no older than 16, and a baby roughly 2 months older, thereabouts. And he can also hear that there is a car coming up behind her, going about 90 miles an hour.
Can tell it's a Lincoln car.
Can tell it's a Lincoln. Yes, he can tell it's a Lincoln because he is magic. And so
as an aside, that last panel, the priests say, oh, Ty's ritual of therapy. Thanks for coming here instead of doing that. See what you mean about of its times.
Um, yeah. So mid whatever mid confession, Matt changes into his Daredevil costume and jets out before the priest can finish telling him about his penance or whatever it is he needs to do there.
A wonderful little John Woo splash page of him jumping through doves.
I'm sure that has some kind of significance too, but
Disturbing the peace. They're going to arrest him. I mean,
That's right.
I'm sure there's some kind of metaphor about like the dove being likened unto Christ and something or another, but we don't have any of our theologians present today. We just have Kyle.
Yada yada yada. Feel bad.
So yeah, it's pretty fun. We have the most theologians of any non-religious podcast, I think, that I've ever heard.
It's true. It's true. We should have had JR or Jesse just to be on standby for this one.
This should have been a tag team operation.
That's right. The podcast is 6 hours long and ends with someone converting to atheism.
If you have any comic book questions, you ask Josh. If you have any Catholic doctrine questions, you ask Jeff or or Jesse. Anyhow, so she's running from this car. There's some dudes driving this car that appear to be wanting to run this team down for reasons that we don't fully understand yet.
and the license plate says VIP. That's beautiful, really.
That is a cool way to let everybody know that you're definitely undercover and should not be paid any attention to.
Absolutely.
Very
No job.
yes. So these
This is a Dior.
these two guys, of course, get Daredevil after him. He manages to get the car to crash. And during this whole interlude, getting the car to stop and crash, the two guys are unconscious, because they've just been in a car accident. He realizes that this girl has kind of disappeared on him. And now he has to explain to the cops why he just randomly caused the car to crash. And this is actually never given any explanation prior to that, or after that. So we can only assume what he told the police. Meanwhile, back at the office a little bit later, it's important to note here that this is the offices of Sharp, Nelson, and Murdoch. And so Matt is being himself here, just sitting at his desk in his law office, thinking about, his ex-girlfriend and how much he misses her. And decides that this is, again, very 90s, but very funny. He's like, man, I miss Karen so much. I can't do any, there's rooms in my house I can't go into because they remind me too much of her. I'm going to call Natasha. Maybe I'll call Natasha, see what Widow's up to.
That's always a great plan.
Burrow is about to call his ex.
I don't think that's necessarily 90s. I think that's just that we were in our 20s in the 90s.
Yeah, it's like,
There are still people doing that shit today.
it's very true.
One
also
also talk about the other. I mean,
this is also classic Matt Murdoch, as far as I am concerned. Is like, when my girlfriend broke up with me, let's see if any of these other broads got anything going on. So he is about to call Natasha when Foggy comes in, and so he does not complete the call, hangs up the phone, and there's this rich about to be divorcee that he's introducing to him. It's like, yeah, where I'm going to do this divorce case, and take care of that, and so they're in the middle of discussing that, and she seems kind of like the classic married divorcee type, like, oh, maybe we can all get dinner together and talk about how much money I'm going to get in the divorce, whatever. But as this conversation begins, Matt gets distracted again because he's now picking up the two heartbeats of the girl and the baby again. So he dips out. He's like, I gotta go, bye. And then he gets to ground level and they're gone again. In the meantime, across town, a unseen person is admonishing the two thugs that were in that car that was coming after that girl earlier. They're very banged up because obviously they've been in a car accident. And the person who is speaking, we don't see their face. The person who is speaking is like, I'm really disappointed in you guys, but you can go. Try harder next time. They get into the elevator, and then the elevator starts to flood, and they drown in the water-filled elevator.
That's a pretty well-sealed elevator, I guess.
Yeah. So this guy is displeased that his fabulous plan has not been pulled off or whatever, and he keeps talking to somebody called Mr. Gabriel. And is like, Mr. Gabriel is going to make, I should have let him make an example of you. Mr. Gabriel is blah, 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 blah. So that's his associate's name, who appears to be some kind of bodyguard or something. Again, they're in shadow. It's a little hard to see who they are.
Very Mr. Joshua from the second Die Hard movie vibes.
Gotcha.
So, Daredevil, when we cut over to him, is just kind of, flipping and bounding and daredeviling through the city, thinking about his ex-girlfriend. And he, manages to, apprehend a criminal who is attempting to apparently like sexually assault a lady in an alley. And as he's, fighting with this guy who he makes short work of, he's kind of like mentally arguing with God in his inner monologue.
As one does.
Right, exactly, as one does, especially if they're Matt Murdoch. And he is now questioning his fate. He's been through such a hard time. Why would God do such a thing to us? Sort of situation. We cut back over to the teen and the baby who is sleeping kind of like in an alley sort of area. And wordlessly, like she has like a vision of some type. There's no dialogue exchange, at least on the panels, but she seems to see like a host of, I guess, heavenly beings. They don't have wings or anything like that, but it's just kind of implied that, you see this very bright light, and it kind of implies that there's all these beings, these heavenly beings surrounding her or whatever. And she says, "Thank you, Lord," and then goes back to sleep. So,
Okay.
meanwhile, back at the law offices of Sharp, Nilsson, and Murdoch, Matt and Foggy are discussing the divorce case. And Foggy discloses that the woman who he's representing in the divorce case, the multimillionaire lady, her ex-husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, had her sterilized without her consent.
Ooh.
Or knowledge. I don't really know how this can happen, and it is never explained, neither here nor there. He once again is mid-conversation with Foggy, and is like, "Oh, I hear those heartbeats again. I gotta go after him." And Foggy's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And Matt is just not answering any of his questions. He is about to throw the door open when he realizes that the woman and baby, or the kid and the baby, the teen and the baby, if you will, are literally right outside the door. So he throws the door open and almost immediately walks into them. He immediately ushers them inside of his office and is like, "Hey, this person's an old friend. I'm just, don't like let her in. Foggy, get the fuck out. I get to talk to this person."
Yeah, he's not kind to Foggy like at all.
So she sits down in the office and lets the whole story spill out. She is 15 and is claiming that this baby is the result of a virgin birth. She has never had sex before. She has she woke up one day and was pregnant. And has no explanation as to how she got pregnant or had the baby in the first place. She talks about how her parents were killed by some people who have been chasing her over this, very seemingly immaculate conception. And Matt can tell, at least with his Daredevil senses, that she is telling the truth, or at least what she believes to be the truth. She's not, emitting any, stress pheromones or erratic heartbeats or anything else. And so he's like, okay, well, this is all very terrible, and I'm sorry to hear about this, but what would you like me to do about this situation? And she's like, well, I had a dream, where an angel said that you would protect my baby. And and he's like, well, I can help you legally, like with legal protection, but I can't do more than that. And she's like, oh, well, the angel also said that you're Daredevil, Mr. Murdoch. And he's like, what?
Yep.
She then starts talking about how it says in the Bible that, the Redeemer would return to save the just and judge the wicked. But she doesn't know why she was chosen for this, but in 30 years' time, the work will really begin, but this child needs to be protected from the evil men who are chasing them. And then she just hands the baby off and is like, well, keep the faith, and leaves. And he's just standing there holding a baby.
Here's a baby and just jets. Yeah.
Yep. And so he's like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, very literally,
That's what you do, apparently, the baby. You just give it to a blind lawyer and walk away.
give it to a blind lawyer and dip. It's
Free baby.
right. So this panel cracked me up when I saw it, because he's holding this baby as if he's
As if it's toxic.
right. Is it his
Yeah, the look on his face was just,
right? Like, I don't know if the baby had recently dropped a load in its diaper like 2 seconds prior or what, but he is holding it as if it has.
Well, the lady behind him with the hands on the hips looking at him in disgust. She's like, that's not how you hold a baby.
You need to support that child's head. It is 2 months old.
You've got Foggy back there. I mean, his face is like, what is that thing he has in his hands? Never see his...
Is that some kind of small subhuman? It's goofy as hell. And that's how the first issue ends. So we're one issue into this in the nightmare realm. It will
One of 6
from here. Yeah.
Make sure you just show Josh. All I was thinking of is the Lion King. So that
Holding the baby up to the moon.
I need to also point out too, like, you ever see, like, in any of your like even just like a college class or like, whatever. I don't know if you visit museums, but you ever see any like Renaissance artwork by people who clearly just did not know how to draw a baby, like monks in some kind of cloister somewhere who, don't have contact with babies, and they're like, this is what I think a baby might look like if I had ever seen one. That's
One was reincarnated into Joe Quesada. Yeah.
right. like it's a very bizarre looking baby. Like, the artwork in here in general is bizarre, but the baby is really taking the cake here. So issue 2 starts out with Nat. And I'm going to go ahead and say that what I said earlier to friend of the podcast, Adam Witt, after I concluded this book, Joe Quesada's renderings of Natasha Romanov, the Black Widow, in this story arc should be regarded as a crime. A hate crime, specifically against women. Because it's terrible. It's awful. But Nat greets him at the door with the incredibly hilarious, don't even try to tell me that it's mine.
I mean, I'm just looking here, and it's got like checkers, baby blocks, a Jack in the Box, like 18 bottles. There's milk and everything all over the walls. I mean, it looks like a war zone.
Yeah.
And it's like, how old is the baby?
There's a small Howard the Duck toy on the table.
That's my favorite part. That's my favorite part. Complete with cigar in his mouth, Howard the Duck toy.
So yeah, Matt.
She's just looking like, this is all normal.
And she's, well, and again, like, she's not in streetwear. She's in, this black cat suit thing. But again, it is drawn like somebody who's never seen an adult human woman before. It's just fucking terrible.
I love how magical her hair is in that first panel in the background where it's just like flowing however it wants. I mean, it's
Yeah. We're
bad.
gonna see a lot of that anytime it comes to Natasha, because Natasha, like Joe Quesada apparently seems to believe that women's hair is akin to that of Medusa's, where it just has a mind of its own. It's a sentient being in and of itself, and it just kind of does whatever it wants all the time.
Okay. But to be fair, have you met my wife?
I mean, it's fair to say we met, yeah.
If I did not have a CPAP machine, her hair would climb inside of my nostrils and mouth, strangle me in my sleep.
I mean, it's very, very reminiscent of what Nat's hair does during this entire storyline. So
Yes.
so Matt is explaining to Natasha like kind of what the past couple days have held for him. And
So is this all like one day after the confessional? Is that what it looks like? Like he's gotten all this stuff and his office has exploded in one day.
yeah, apparently, since a very an actual time frame is never given, but it's implied that this is very shortly thereafter. So he's like, yeah, and now I've got, so all this stuff is happening, and now, this girl showed up in my office and dumped this baby on me, and Nat's like, oh, great, a baby
In a bar.
in a bar. You have a baby in a law office. And-
Although I don't think this is his law office. I think this is his house.
Oh, okay. Well, at any rate, he's got a baby in his house.
Right.
And he's very clear to be like, I am not this child's father. Like he says it at least twice on the same page.
So go back one page, Josh. Bottom right panel, that baby is giving him some side eye. That's all I can say.
Yep.
The baby's like looking at her. She says they got your grip, and it's just like looking at him like, yep.
So, Daddy.
And Matt's like, yeah, this girl is like, yeah, this girl's told me that this child was some kind of savior or redeemer. The angels were talking to her, and Nat is like, are you out of your fucking mind?
Correct. The correct reaction. I mean, someone started telling you that. Yeah, that's the reaction you should.
Yeah, I will say this comic, drawn incorrectly, however, written very correctly. This is very, very Nat, especially Nat in this time period.
Yes. The baby does manage to slip off one of her widow's bites. This is never referenced again during the course of this comic, that this 2-month-old child is able to disarm the Black Widow very casually. No mention.
Sorry, wait, what? It's not a good sign if your weapons can get stopped by a 2-month-old baby.
Yeah. I was enraged at this particular interaction. I was like, how dare you? Why is everybody always trying to do my girl dirty?
Oh my gosh. And I love that panel where she's like, well, I guess I need to ask Tony for more tips. That's like, okay, so we know Tony can't do babies, but he can't baby proof.
In fairness, I can't imagine it was a scenario he ever thought was going to come up, but still, like,
Look, I'm saving a baby. There go my weapons.
So Nat's like, well, that's cool. Why exactly did you call me? Is it just because your girlfriend broke up with you?
Subtlety.
And he's like, actually. And she gets ready to leave. And Matt, and again, this is, boy, I don't like Daredevil in the comics at all. Matt's like, well, aren't you getting something? And literally just tosses the baby at her and is like, I gotta go. I got stuff I gotta do. Good luck. I figure you know what to do with these.
Yeah, I trust you know what to do with one of these. Like, okay.
Holy shit, you
That is sexist.
can't go random woman and be like, you're a woman. You know what to do with one of these. Anyways, good luck. And
I'm tiffin', bye.
fuck you, Matt Murdoch. Like,
This bottom right panel of Natasha with this baby, by the way, I believe that I have sent to you multiple times over the years. Leia.
yes, many times.
I couldn't muster up the guts to change it yet. Thanks. Oh my.
Well, and she looked down at the baby and then looks up and yells, "Good God, I was an Avenger."
Like this whole page. I finally, because I had seen this panel, as you mentioned, not only had you sent it to me, multiple people over the years have sent it to me.
Oh, I'm sure you get it several times a day.
Yeah, and I finally, it's one of those things where I finally realized what the context was surrounding it, and it went from being like, oh, that's a funny panel, to being kind of insulting. I was like, oh, this is terrible.
You're welcome for helping you find the origin of it.
Yeah, that's right.
Story of the panel. For whatever reason, I thought that this panel came from a completely different comic where Luke and Jessica's baby, where she was babysitting that baby as well. I kind of vaguely remember that being a thing, and I thought that's where that had come from.
Yeah, she did briefly watch their child, but she chose to do that.
Yes.
So
If you that it was
that was
at her.
right. That was Jessica literally asking her for a favor. But I actually believe in the comic that you're talking about, this is referenced.
Yeah.
Where Jessica's like, you have cared for children before, and Natasha goes, well, not by choice or anything, which is obviously a dig at this.
It very much reminds me, like at work, how my boss always refers to me as being like the tech person in the office. And the only reason she calls me that is because I'm the person who is not over retirement age in the office. It's like, oh, you're the tech person. It's like, oh, you're the woman. You're just gonna take care of this.
I love how his first assumption is, I'm gonna get an assassin to watch the baby, rather than, hey, maybe someone here at the company can help, at the law firm can help me, or I can call someone that's a child care professional. No, I'm calling the assassin. Watch the baby.
Like, okay, yeah, because she happens to be a woman that he knows. Like, that's the thing. It's just like anybody will do.
I got this baby I need to take care of. Good thing I got this Rolodex full of broads I used to bang.
Like, Jesus, it doesn't get better from here either. I'm sorry to say. So Matt,
you're saying this was the high point for Matt in his career,
kind of. So Matt goes back to the office and he's looking through hospital records to come across to see if he can find out who the baby's mama is. And maybe get more information that way. And then he is interrupted again by his the secretary, who's like, oh, you've got an 11:30 p.m. I need to stress too, 11:30 p.m. No, 11:30 a.m. 11:30 p.m. appointment.
I mean, whose secretary doesn't work at 11:30 p.m.? I mean,
there's a lot of questions here that unfortunately are not going to be answered in any relevant way.
I mean, if you work in a law firm, you're available 24/7. Is it?
That's how that job works. Like being a police officer, you're never off duty.
That's right.
So he's told that's a Nicholas McCabe's is on his schedule, and he's like, no, there really isn't. I don't have anything here about 11:30. And she's like, oh no, this was booked weeks ago, but I don't remember putting it in myself. Do you want me to change it? And he's like, no, let him in. And just as he finishes that sentence, the guy just strolls in. He is a very an older man who kind of looks like he's come off the Monopoly box. And he introduces himself as Nicholas McCabe's. And he just gets straight to business, sits down, lights up a pipe, because of course he does, and is like, hey, I think you've got custody of a kid right now. And Matt, of course, being kind of cagey, is like, well, are you from social services? Like, he doesn't want to say yes or no, but what's this about? And so this guy launches into an explanation and is like, hey, look, I'm sure you've seen some crazy stuff in your life, especially being, who you are. And, so believe it or not, the end is nigh. The apocalypse is coming.
So to clarify, does everyone at this point know he's Daredevil, like you were saying, or is this guy just insinuating that he knows it? And
it sure fucking feels like it during the course of this story. We can safely assume that any person that Matt Murdoch encounters over this 6-issue arc knows that he's Daredevil. Because everybody seems to know.
Well, I mean, from what you were saying earlier, I wasn't sure, like, you said, hey, his secret came out, and then this other thing happened. So I wasn't sure if, like, it was everyone knows it's an outside secret or just these people happen to. So
These people happen to.
So this guy's like, the apocalypse is coming. And the kid that was given to you, is the Antichrist.
okay.
And also we know that you're Daredevil. And so he goes on to explain, and this kid is the Antichrist. It just seems like they're an innocent child, but they're not. It's evil. It will destroy the world. And Matt's like, well, I'm not gonna kill this baby. Like, I'm not gonna kill a baby. And he's like, don't worry about it. I'll take
The Marvel Universe. Surprise me.
my shadowy organization will take care. And Matt also notes, and this is actually significant, that this guy also appears to be telling what he believes to be the truth. He's not trying to deceive him. He genuinely believes this. But he's confused because the girl, whose name is Gwyneth, the teen, also was telling the truth as she believed it to be. So he's like, well, both of these people are very convinced that they're correct. So I don't really know what's going on.
Okay.
And so the organization is one whose sole purpose is to see that the human race endures Sheol.
That's a big sigh.
Yeah. He then goes on, and again, this is referenced again. He then goes on to imply that the organization that he is in charge of or employed by or whatever, again, unclear, has essentially engineered many of the Avengers and other superheroes that currently exist. They engineered the creation of the Hulk. They engineered the creation of Spider-Man. They engineered him, Daredevil, by creating the accident that gave him his blindness and his Daredevil senses. It again is not referenced ever again in the course of this comic that this organization has, or at least claims to have, had a hand in pointing the right catalyst essentially at the right people to become, the Hulk and Spider-Man and Daredevil.
Implying he knows all of their backgrounds and who they are too.
Right. And also knew the outcome, right, of like, gamma radiation on the Hulk and whatever isotopes were in the chemicals spilled on Daredevil, and the radioactive spider was absolutely going to bite Peter Parker and nobody else. This is
make a joke. I know it's DC, but it's isn't this like Booster Gold level knowledge? I mean, come on.
Yeah. No, it's not. I know it's not Marvel. That's what it sounds. It's pretty apt, actually. So yeah. So I was like, yes, our organization has done all this, and because we were very powerful and secretive and Catholic.
And Catholic. Missed that part. Gotcha.
And he's like, look, the longer you hang on to that kid, the worse it's going to get for you, because it's evil and it just taints everything that's around it. I'm going to give you 48 hours to decide the correct course of action, and then I'm going to come back and take the kid from you if you haven't already given it to me. And then he dips.
Just say, I'll be back. Don't contact me. I'll contact you.
Basically. He leaves a calling card, which is basically just a what appears to be, and again, I am not really need stress here, not a Catholic, not even Christian a little bit. This appears to be a Celtic cross, which Matt then picks up and kind of stares at and is like, I really just don't know what to think about this. Foggy interrupts his train of thought as he's looking at this weird cross, and it's like, hey, I wanted to take the rich, millionaire divorcee out to dinner tonight, just, to talk about her case. Can I borrow your company credit card? And Matt, who is distracted, just kind of tosses him the platinum card, and he's like, yay. Matt takes a little stroll and is trying to figure out who the hell is messing with him. At first he thinks it's Wilson Fisk, the kingpin. His train of thought gets interrupted by a guy who tries to mug him. And he very quickly is able to kind of get this guy off of him, and the guy offers up a choice epithet about his mother, and this causes him to snap and just start wailing on this fucking mugger, like just beating the absolute piss out of him until he's stopped by some kids at the end of the alley who are like, "Hey, mister, are you gonna kill that guy?"
Specifically, it seems the three demon kids from Dogma.
I can see the hockey
I didn't pick up on that. I didn't even pick up on that, but you're absolutely right. It does seem to be the three demon kids from Dogma, and that makes perfect sense because he does say in the afterword that while he was writing the course of this story, he like finished up production on Dogma. So
this comic started coming out a year before Dogma was released, so they overlapped.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a couple other references here and there to like self-referential Stephen King-esque references to his own work in here, but I did not pick up on that until you said it. You're absolutely right. So yes, three demon kids from Dogma are there like, "Hey, mister, you gonna kill that guy?"
Can we help?
Frick. Matt then kind of snaps back to reality. Is like, "I gotta get out of here." And then he dips. Meanwhile, the teen Gwyneth is still trying to evade these dudes from the organization they're still after her. And unfortunately, her luck runs out, and she is apprehended by them and shoved into the back of a limo. Meanwhile, Matt is, doing hashtag just Daredevil things and is like standing very dramatically on the roof of a building, looking out over the city, except he can't look because he can't see. And then Natasha appears behind him, still with the baby, and is like, "Hey, I still have this baby.
Did you want it, Matt?
Do you want this back?" And,
Well, he says, "Give me the baby." He must.
so she's like, "Actually, you know what? This hasn't been too bad. I'm actually starting to kind of enjoy this." And he's like, "No, give me the baby." And so he takes it from her and then just throws it off the building.
Yeet.
He very literally throws this baby off the end of the building, and it's like, because he asked before he does it, he's like, "Hey, if you knew what Hitler would eventually do, would you have, killed him as a child?" Which is like the ultimate quandary, right?
Yeah.
And of course, Nat's like, "Well, no, it's nature, not nurture. I wouldn't have killed him. I just would have, raised him in a different place and done different things." And he's like, "No, I don't care. Eat," and just eats the baby. Nat goes after the baby immediately, dives off the roof of the building, uses her little widow's bites, grappling hook things to lift herself back up, and is like, "Are you insane?"
Well, I'm gonna laugh at this because, like, the first panel, he's got the baby over his head, like he's just gonna yeet it forward, and the next panel looks like he yeeted it off to the side, like I took a big step and woof. It's just the perspective too hilarious.
So Matt does help her get the baby get back up under the roof, and that's enough. That's all Nat needs before she has him down on the ground. It's like, you have 10 seconds to explain what you just did, or I will kill you.
I mean, she's got that nurture, right?
Yes.
Protect the baby, kill the one that's trying to hurt it.
And Nat, very seriously, is like, "That kid is the Antichrist," and Nat just starts laughing. And it's like, "Are you?
What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Everything.
And Matt sounds like such a tool. He's like, "Well, so a guy came to see me, and he said that he knew stuff, and he said the kid was the harbinger of the end times." And she's like, "And you believed him?"
Well, he was an old white man. Of course he did.
Right. So legit. It lined up with my existing belief structure, so I didn't question it at all.
As a lawyer does, right? Don't question.
And also, right, exactly. And also, he knew I was Daredevil, so if he knew her was Daredevil, this child must also be the Antichrist. It stands to reason.
If A is B, then B must be A.
So she's like, this baby, he's here to end the world. And she's like, "It's a girl. This baby is a girl. You didn't even know that this was a girl baby."
Well, I mean, he didn't have the guts to change the diaper, so you know.
I also just want to point out too, as somebody, and I don't have any kids, right? But I'm the oldest of five. I've had extensive experience with other people's kids and being around children and whatnot. What this is telling me is that Matt Murdoch received a baby at 5:45 p.m. the day prior to him meeting up with Nat again, and which is implied to be at some point the next day, possibly early evening to actual evening. And so for that 18-hour span, he did not change the diaper at any point in time.
Yup. It's parent. Nope. That would not work well.
Do better, Matt Murdoch. It takes better, Kevin Smith. Holy shit.
Nat deserves to do this to him just for that, because I'm sure that was not fun cleanups.
Right, exactly. Like he did feed it. You see him feeding the baby at one point with a bottle when Nat comes in, but like, yeah, didn't bother to change the diaper. So yeah, comic books. This is definitely a case where you wave your fingers in the air and yell comic books because that's implausible.
Or the people that drew and wrote it don't understand how babies work.
Oh yeah, that's very clear. That's very clear. I think at one point Kevin Smith does say in the afterword that he had his daughter.
Right.
So he hopefully is aware of babies. Like how they work. Yeah. So yeah. This is a very strange plot point.
How do they work?
You give them a magnet and walk away.
So Nat's like, look, you are unwell.
Get shit.
You need to take the night off at minimum and think about what you're doing because
Go sit in your room and think about what you did.
Yeah, you just tried to throw a baby off a roof, my guy. You should not be around this child or any other children. Go do anything other than be Daredevil for the evening. And she leaves with the baby.
And stop throwing babies.
Yeah. Like, good God, man. Meanwhile, Foggy and the about to be wealthy divorcee are at this uptown brownstone that she is supposedly going to get in this divorce. Her name is Lydia McKenzie. She brings him into this building and is like showing him around for reasons that are unclear. And she's like, can I be direct with you? And then just leans in and starts kissing him. She's like, I know you've got a girlfriend, Liz Osborne, but don't worry, I'll be discreet, and then she sort of drags him into, I guess, the bedroom.
All right, I just watched the new Beetlejuice movie last night, so this is extra funny to me.
Yeah.
She's a soul sucker.
Oh God, that was a good film. So she pulls him into the bedroom. We fade to black. We cut back over to Matt. Matt just keeps dicking around with this cross this dude left, thinking about, whatever. Maybe I should talk to somebody. But I'll do it as soon as I look into this organization. They keep calling it Sheol, which is a choice. So his train of thought gets interrupted because all of a sudden he can hear somebody getting off the elevator. He hears some very familiar, hair and movements and whatever footsteps. It's Karen. Karen has shown up at the door in tears, mascara running. The artwork of her is ugly as sin. It is so bad.
They can't draw women.
No, not at all. This is pretty consistent with Joe Posada's work as a whole. And so Matt lets her in. She's in tears. She's crying. She's like, and she just starts talking. And she's like, I'm so scared. When I found out I had to come here immediately, I thought about it so often, all the things that I've done in my life, the drugs, the movies, plural, that whole period of my life. But, I thought it was all behind me. I thought that I was going to make it. And Matt's like, what the hell are you talking about? And I'm sorry, this isn't funny, but it's really funny. And she just kind of collapses. Is like, I'm so sorry. And then she just yells out like, I have AIDS.
Which is not where I thought this entire thing was going to go at all.
This was 100% the point where I started laughing and I was like, oh my God. I'm like, oh yes, this is a product of the late 90s, right? Because Kevin Smith decided that we were going to take a moment and be, have a serious talk about a serious issue. And like
that first panel, forget you and your God after what he's done.
I'm like, yeah, God did this to her. That's another thing too. Like there's a lot of stuff going on here.
So much.
But this is so melodramatic as to be
Comedic.
Yeah. Like it's difficult to take this seriously. Like at this again, and this probably slapped in the 90s, but at this moment in time, seeing that I was immediately like, oh, okay.
It made me think of the South Park episode.
Oh,
Did not age well either, but still.
no. And that's how issue 2 ends. So we just end with Karen has AIDS now.
Because, she can have nothing good. It's all bad in her life is what I'm
Yeah.
hearing.
You do one porn and now
Even just one.
just exactly.
It's like Pringles. Once you movies,
Yeah. You do one, you can't stop. So we open up on issue 3. Karen has spent the night. She's apparently just kind of tuckered herself out, being melodramatic and
mascara up. Yup.
and so Matt's thinking about everything he's done, but he's got more important business to attend to now. He's left Karen sleeping because what he is now dealing with is Foggy. Yeah, we are the opening splash is of Matt in a interrogation room as Foggy
On the last panel that you were showing, Josh, the one on the left, like the second from the bottom, where he's like, "Oh, she came and told me this, and that old man said that evil baby will curse my life." Sorry, I had to point that out when
No, this is all evil baby. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Should have thrown it off of a roof.
Yeah. So Foggy's in handcuffs and is being let out by a police officer into the room. Matt is clearly there in his capacity as a lawyer. So Foggy sits down. He's got scratches like all over his face. He looks like hell. And Matt's like, Foggy, what happened, bro? And he's like, well, I took that wealthy, about to be divorcee out to dinner to discuss her case. And, one thing led to another. It got totally out of control. Everything happened.
Lost her plan card.
Everything happened so fast, and then she turned into a demon.
Okay, that's a head desk moment. Okay,
yeah. This is definitely where it would definitely starts to look like a Spawn style comic. The way that this divorcee is drawn.
Yep. 100% looking at that one. The teeth.
Yes, the teeth that hung. Got a little bit of Venom / Spawn going on there.
The skin that's peeling. Yeah.
Yeah. This demon thing clawed my face. That's why it's got scratches all over his face. And then hurled itself through the bedroom window. And then when I ran over to look out, it was her on the ground and she was dead and there was no demon. I called the police on myself and then I was, taken into custody for murder.
It's the charge that they gave him.
At least it wasn't a baby. I mean,
this we're only halfway through. I mean, at this point, this is got a lot more to go.
Oh, go on. Just laughing at it.
No, it's a lot. So mad at her, Matt, Foggy immediately starts crying and is like, yes, it's very sad that this woman is dead, but what's sadder is what am I going to tell my girlfriend? I think that this is punishment from God for cheating on her. So this is Foggy's biggest takeaway, right? Is that
that actions have consequences? Yeah.
Actions have consequences. It's not that a woman is dead or even that a demon has assailed him. It's what am I going to tell my girlfriend about cheating on her?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's legit.
So Matt's like, all right, well, we'll work on getting you out. He goes back to the office, which is now being swarmed by media for obvious reasons. And this this lady who kind of looks like Cruella de Vil is like, hey, Matt, can I have a word with you in my office? And then we kind of cut away a little bit back to Karen, who is going through some stuff and trying to kind of make sense of what's going on in her life. There's a
Wearing literal boxing shorts.
wearing literal boxing shorts.
10 rounds.
Yes. That's clear. She's borrowed from Matt. There's a knock at the door, and it's that McCabe's guy who's like, "Hey, I'm here to talk to you about your unfortunate situation." Karen, who had been smoking, the panel has her looking like somebody like has hit her with a board across the face, and like the cigarette is just falling out of her mouth. It's very weird.
Old men are startling.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, the art choices in here are abysmally bad. When we cut back over to Matt, he is talking to this woman who apparently wants to fire Foggy, because the bad press for the firm. It's too scandalous. He's been arrested for murder, and whatever. It turns out this is Foggy's mom. Foggy's mom is the person who wants to fire her son, Foggy, for being indicted for murder, and rape, apparently, because she calls him a rapist.
Well, I mean, that could have been about this or something else. We don't know. I mean,
unclear. I think she just assumed there was rape involved, that it was like sex murder of some type. Because this is the first it's mentioned, right? In the other one, it just says that he was arrested for murder 1, and here she's like, he's a rapist. That's like, okay. And she's like, all this does is give me a bad reputation. So she's kind of a bitch. I don't know anything about Foggy's mom. Like, I don't.
he has Dalmatians.
Apparently, it's very clear she does not care for Dalmatians.
I liked her a lot more when she was played by Emma Stone.
Yeah. So yeah, I can't say that I've ever seen her in any other Daredevil comics I've read, and I have not read a lot of Daredevil, to be completely fair. But if she's a recurring character, this is the first I've ever seen her. So, yeah, basically she's like, this is damaging to our reputation as a law firm. We need to get rid of him. And Matt is like, no, you can't fire him. Like, he didn't do anything. He hasn't been proven guilty in a court of law. And she's like, no, furthermore, you're not allowed to defend him. We can't give you any resources. I have to cut all the ties to the firm. And then he's like, well, fine, then I quit. And then he leaves. So
the ton of panel there just shows her eyes with tears coming down, like,
right.
Oh, it sucks so much that I'm firing my son because the firm's more important.
Right. Like, okay. So
Feel her pain.
There's a lot of that in this. So a lot of there's a lot of melodrama in this book.
Or doves, it looks like. Yep.
Always surrounded by doves.
In the rain.
In the rain. This is what it sounds like when doves cry. So he's leaping around. Matt's leaping around, doing Daredevil stuff, thinking about Daredevil things. He's like, there's a lot going on. At least Natasha has the baby.
Someone was spying on him before, it looked like.
Yes. There's some people that are spying on him who are like, now is the time we need to commence our attack. And of course, he's just flipping around thinking about, thank God a woman has a baby. How
very Republican of you.
It very, very literally says she can keep it at this point for all I care. Holy fuck.
This is not a sweatshirt that you left at a girlfriend's house.
Exactly. Like, it's this
Saturday night, a game master. Let him be.
Oh. So as he's flipping through the city, he hears somebody being attacked in an alley, of course, because they're never attacked anywhere else. And he goes to apprehend the guy, and gets essentially tranked by some nameless dudes. It was a setup. And they've subdued him and capture him. When we cut back to Karen, she's talking to this McCabe's guy that looks like he's off the Monopoly box, And he informs her that he wouldn't have AIDS if it weren't for the baby. Baby has caused her AIDS.
Yes.
Which
How that works.
Which reminds me, I'm doing this right now. I meant to earlier just take the snippet of Karen Page saying, "And I'm HIV positive because of this baby," and I'm putting it directly on the Rec Conversations page because that's the high quality content we look for. Social media.
I'm also laughing at the fact she's like, "Oh, this old man is here. I'm not even going to bother putting a shirt on." I mean,
the thing that's crazy is like, and I know like in this particular story, especially at this point in the story, she's supposed to be like distraught and like coming to terms with the fact that she has a very serious, incurable immunodeficiency disorder. But
This is still the time it was a death sentence.
right. And Joe Quesada has taken pains to make sure that she looks exactly like the kind of junkie druggie that she used to be. Like she's constantly smoking. Her eyes look kind of sleepy and hazy. She looks kind of strung out and messy. Like it's not good. But yeah, he's like, yes, that is absolutely correct. If it wasn't for this baby, you wouldn't have AIDS.
there's a lot in that statement. Yep.
Yeah. Isn't it funny that the same day that that evil baby was relegated to the care of Matt Murdoch, that you got diagnosed with HIV? Isn't that a weird coincidence? And he's like, well, yes, this is just, it's because the baby is so evil. But if the child is ended, then your life will go back to normal. And she's like, I'm not going to kill a baby.
Wow. Basically saying kill the baby and it goes away.
Kill the baby, cure your AIDS. You heard it here first. So
Alternative medicine at its finest.
yeah, pretty much. And she's like, hey, and he's like, by the way, not only do you have AIDS, but it's totally possible, especially given, how AIDS works. Matt might also have AIDS, or you'll give it to him by the baby just existing. And she collapses in tears and is like, no, Matt.
And the lightning strike.
And the lightning strikes dramatically in the background. Like, God, it's so overwrought. Like,
That's sorry, the way he's drawn right there. And he looks like his neck should be broken.
yeah, he looks like the way that Peter Griffin does after like he gets hit by something. It's very similar. It's like in terms of how it's a very Family Guy looking position he's in right now. So Matt is we come back to Matt. Matt is in a apparently all white room with nothing in it. It is soundproofed. In a vacuum. He can't hear anything. He can't obviously see anything. And he's like, well, there's got to be a way out because this is a room, which is, I mean,
Logical.
good. Yeah, makes sense. And he starts trying to find a way out of the room, but it doesn't last for very long because there's some kind of noise all of a sudden that starts as a shrieking, deafening noise that immediately fucks with his super sensitive ears. The doorknob on the door to this room turns and a dude walks in. He looks kind of like Beast from the X-Men, except he's not blue. He looks like if Beast and Thanos had a kid.
Yes.
Like he's got like slicked back long black hair, but he's also got like the kind of red wrinkly Thanos sort of face.
Or what's the dark side almost.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I look at it. Yeah.
Does kind of look
Dark
like
side is.
Oh yeah. He absolutely is.
He should bring Matt a vegetable.
A veggie.
Sorry, veggie tray. Yes.
What a great story.
Some cookies.
See, to help you get through this, I'm just going to remind you of Mr. Miracle and that it was a fantastic comic. Let's move on.
You know who really writes good comics? Tom King. So this guy comes in and there's all these noises and he's like this is the sound of fallen angels. That's why it's upsetting you. It's just very high frequency I can't really hear it, but it's supposed to be very agonizing for dogs and also you.
And it's the sound of fallen angels.
Yes. Apparently.
So they hate dogs. Got it.
Yeah. This guy introduces himself as Baal. And he's like, here's what I want. I'm 53 years old, and I have been preparing my entire life for the coming of someone so important. I can't even say their name, but I need to protect this thing. There's other people out there like me. And our goal essentially is to protect this thing. You've been misinformed. I need to tell you where this is coming from. Meanwhile, Matt is trying to figure out the source of the noise and how it works. He realizes there's a gap in the sound loop. And in that nanosecond pause, he is able to kind of focus a little bit more as this guy is talking. And he, of course, this Baal guy is like, where's the kid? Daredevil, who has been left with his weapons for inexplicable reasons in this room, takes his little nightstick guy and manages to knock out a speaker. And this Baal guy is like, uh-oh, this is going to go very badly for me. And they start fighting. It doesn't last very long. Two other people, thugs, come out and start wailing on Daredevil. He makes quick work of them. They start shooting at him. Although Baal is very much like, we can't risk harm. Don't kill him, basically. Like, we can't risk harming him. Don't kill him. You can shoot at him, just don't kill him. The sound that has still kind of disoriented him, has still kind of disoriented Daredevil, so he kind of falls into the street, like leaps through a window, falls out into the street, nearly gets hit by a car, and that is where issue 3 ends. There's a truck bearing down on him that he has landed in front of.
Time to get East Guide.
So we start issue 4, and Matt and Natasha are on top of a roof. She still has the baby, and she's apparently saved him somehow off panel from being hit by this truck. And she's like, didn't your mother ever tell you not to play in traffic? Oh, wait, your mother. I'm so sorry. I forgot.
No, you
This will
didn't.
come into play later.
And was like, she's just got the baby on a baby carrier on her back in the middle of the rain with a winter cap on. That's all it needs.
The baby is awake and having a nice time. Like, it's just...
And that last panel drawing for her is so terrible. I'm so
Oh, it is. It is really bad. Like I said, I think that every panel of her pretty much in this entire series is a crime, and he should be arrested. So he kind of debriefs Nat and is like, yeah, that's somebody had me in a white room, and he's like, I don't really even know who. But and Nat's like, yeah, well, I went to your apartment and there was some girl crying in your bed. And she didn't look like she was having a good time. Is there anything you want to talk to me about?
I mean, it seems like, the two of them and the baby enjoy rooftops. At least she's not handing the baby to him this time.
Getting it off of the roof.
She still thinks it's the problem, you can tell. So
She's like, yeah, I heard about Foggy being arrested. That really sucks. What's going on with you? And he's like, oh, my life is being destroyed by this baby.
Oh, sorry. That's just, when in doubt, blame the babies.
And that's like, I know you've been through a lot, but this is insane. You are insane. And Matt's like, well, maybe she's right. Maybe she isn't right. I don't know. I don't know what's real anymore. And then,
As somebody who is
Perfectly white teeth.
very anti-baby, this all makes perfect sense to me.
so they're talking.
You know what the Antichrist will never be? A dog. Which is why dogs are superior to babies.
It looks like that the baby carrier is almost like part of her outfit. She got the shoulder straps, but nothing around the waist, and that baby's just tied on tight. I mean, it's like, did she go and say, "Hey, Tony, I need a baby carrier just in case on my suit"?
It just velcros right onto the back of her PVC cat suit. Like it's. Yeah, I don't think anybody here has ever seen a baby before. At least
Yeah,
anybody
and I do love that she made it okay for like the baby's still on her back, but you can still see her perfect ass.
Yes, yeah. The baby has been lifted up to such a degree that it does not interfere with the silhouette of her behind. So, like, where a normal person would wear a baby on their back in a baby carrier, not Natasha Romanov. She's got it up about a good 6 inches just so that you can't miss that she's got a great ass. It's really something. Okay. Anyhow, so she's talking to Matt. Matt's not making any sense. Matt then is like, starts thinking like a lunatic. So there's some internal conversation he's got going on here where he's like, women are the worst thing that has ever happened to me. Women are the reason I'm in this problem
Because women have babies.
because women have babies.
I see.
And their maternal women instincts will force them to protect babies, even evil babies, at all costs. Really, it's the children who are wrong.
Babies.
And he starts all of a sudden abruptly being like, how much did they get you for, Natasha? How much did they pay, for your soul? And, like he's thinking to himself, like, I never should have trusted her. She's a communist. and Matt's like, and Natasha is like, you called me here. I didn't call you. Like, what is happening? So he's,
I saved you from a truck. What's going on?
so he turns on her pretty abruptly, irrationally, and is thinking about like all the women that have wronged him, and is like, give me the kid, Nat, and starts trying to choke her out, like again with this shit.
Because she can't protect herself, even though she's a top tier assassin.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So yeah, there's just so he and Nat start fighting, and he manages to kind of get her on the ground and take the baby off of her, and he disappears with the baby again, except he just flings them both off the roof together. They're falling, and then he's like, you know what? No, I probably should not kill myself and this baby. And then takes his little Daredevil cane, and it's how it turns into like a grappling hook with the moments where it's needed. And of course it wraps around the big cross on the top of a church, because why wouldn't it? And he manages to kind of control his landing a little bit. The baby's fine. He kind of takes a bad bump, as it were, and lands at the doorstep of this church. And there's a nun that comes to the door and is like, "Mother, please help me," and he collapses into the arms of the nun, very dramatically, again in the rain.
In the arms of the sister.
Lucky enough to find the nunnery. Got it. Yeah.
So we cut to 2 days later, somewhere uptown. Again, the off-panel villain that we cannot see is, recounting how the ways that his plan has kind of gone awry.
He implies he knows Spider-Man, it looks like my old friend, the Arachnid. Is that?
Yes. He does mention that Spider-Man is his old foe. But he's excited to destroy Daredevil, and how, people will finally respect him, even Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. And he turns to this guy and is like, Mr. Gabriel, again, the guy he was talking to earlier, summon the assassin. So we cut back over to Matt, who is woken up somewhere. It's dark, and
He's always dark for him, but
yeah, dark for him and for us, because we can't really see where he's at. And the nun is also there, and so she's like, look, you slept for 2 days straight. I'll get you something to eat. And he's like, where's my costume? And she's like, oh, I washed it. It's in the closet.
hopefully not with the lights.
And so she's like, I'm just a humble nun. I'm not the mother superior of this place. And Matt now realizes that the woman, the nun that he is speaking to, is his mother.
What?
I don't know. I don't know.
Sorry, my brain's a little broken right now.
I can't help either. This would be a wonderful moment if Jen was here, but unfortunately she is not. She and God have abandoned us.
Yeah, and so has Matt's mom for the past Thursdays. So she is apparently just up and joined a nunnery. She abandoned her son and her husband to be a nun, I guess. He is upset with her for choosing God over her family, which I feel is pretty warranted. So they kind of bicker a little bit about this. But she is taking care of him. She's, taking care of him and the baby as well. And so let me add a shit out of it. It looks like. Yeah, still, he kind of deserves it for being. I mean, they both deserve it, honestly, but he was kind of a dick. So he's like, yeah, I just don't know if if God exists anymore. And she's like, how can you even say that? I am a nun. So they talk about like faith and abandonment, whatever, for a little while. It's not honestly that important or interesting. And so she basically tells him to keep the faith, to continue believing in God, because it's better than not believing in God, I guess. His mother, the nun, informs him that there is also somebody who has been waiting to see him, who is downstairs. But this woman is very upset. This woman is, of course, Karen, who is there and
Somehow knew where he was.
Because she claims that when they shared a bank account, she did notice that he was sending monthly checks to the church that they're currently in.
Sorry, I'm sighing at that because I'm like, okay, he just finds out his mom is there. So is this the church he's been going to, or is this like different? Do we know?
It says that the checks have been going to something called the Clinton Mission Shelter. I do not know. I mean, like, I really don't know if what the situation is. It seems like from my read on this book, it seems like he did not know that his mother was a nun in this place where he had been sending money to for a very long time. So I have no idea.
Okay. Comics are weird. Got it.
The late 90s comics are definitely very weird. But so she's like, okay, I'm here. Where's the baby? I need you to give it to me. And Matt's like, oh, well, I was going to ask you to babysit, but I figured you had a lot going on. And she's like, no, it'd be great. I love babies. And Matt's about to turn around and be like, yeah, just give me a minute to go grab. Wait a minute. I never told you about this baby. How do you know about this baby? And he's immediately like, who got to you? Who told you about? And so she confesses right away. She's like, your friend, Mr. McCabe's, that old guy that came off the Monopoly box, in our apartment, and told me about the curse, that this baby gives to everybody around it. And that, he told me that the baby gave me AIDS, and I believed him. And baby may also have, through me, infected you as well with AIDS. So you might also have AIDS.
The baby.
And if we give this Mr. McCabe's fellow the baby, all of this is going to go away. And he's like, no, this is bullshit. I see clearly now, I just want to get to the bottom of it. This is where, so Karen's like, oh, but it's evil. It's ruining our lives. Look at me. I have AIDS because of that baby. And Matt turns and says, and I'm going to read this verbatim, you have AIDS because you were a junkie, Karen. A junkie who was with God only knows who and how many people. Your carelessness destroyed your life, Karen, not some demon child. And that carelessness may have destroyed my life too, for all we know. So you want to blame someone, then blame yourself. Nobody in this story likes women at all.
No.
Karen is understandably shocked by this and leaves. It's like, holy hell. Meanwhile, a shadowy man is talking to another shadowy man about seeking out a killer. This is the assassin, the aforementioned assassin that he was talking about. He is prepared to offer this assassin $5 million. The assassin, who we can't see at all, beyond one gloved hand, one white gloved hand, has a paperclip in his hand. As this guy is talking, he flips it and manages to like land it in a open book, like as a bookmark sort of situation.
Well, breaking a wine glass?
Yes, through a wine glass, like ricocheting off of a chair and then turning into a paperclip bookmark in a copy of The Catcher in the Rye. When we cut over, we see that it is Bullseye, a villain who I frequently think is, for reasons that make no sense at all, I always think that he is a Hawkeye villain, and he is not.
He should be,
I
though.
don't see why he should be. Yeah.
He should be, but he isn't. But it's Bullseye, and he is there, and he's like, yes, of course, I will kill a guy for you. And that is where she forgets. We're getting there. We're getting there. We are almost there. We are so close. So we open up with Matt talking about the boogeyman, and how his father used to tell him stories of the boogeyman when he was a kid, because to keep him in line, and he is doing something with this little cross that McCabe's guy left with him. When we pull out and see the splash page, it's because he's talking to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is analyzing this cross thing for magic or whatever. And Doctor Strange is like, yeah, there's nothing supernatural about this. Like, it's just a object. And Matt's like, but how? He knew so much about me. And Doctor Strange is like, yeah, no, there's nothing mystical or otherworldly about this. All I can tell you is that the material it's made out of was really well designed to deliver the drug that's in there. And Matt's like, wait a minute, what drug? So Doctor Strange, thank God he's a doctor, right? Doctor Strange is like, yeah, no, it's not mystical at all. There's some kind of hallucinogenic toxin in there that makes people susceptible to suggestion. And, I touched it briefly and it kind of fucked with me, but I've got magic for that. So I just cast it out of my system and it's fine.
I purged it into out of my system and into an alternate dimension within my cell structure.
And meanwhile, so Wong is also here. And like, what I would like everybody to do is listening at home is just imagine Wong as he is in the MCU and not in this panel, because he's on brand. Yeah. He is very on brand in this brief interlude with Doctor Strange. It's just a guy who's in the background who's like, oh yeah, it's a long story. Don't ask about the alternate dimension and his cell structure. Continues going about his chores. So Daredevil has been drugged. And Doctor Strange further informs him that, like, hey, look, I did an astral plane investigation and there's no like save your child of any faith or practice extant like anywhere in this plane, especially not the Christian Redeemer. But to be fair, my mystic abilities have been a little undependable lately. This is again not referenced. I have to assume there is something going on with Doctor Strange at this point in time in his own comic. I don't know what he's talking about here.
I do not either.
So, but he does, he kind of mentions offhand here on this page as well that like, I'm not certain of much these days, although he seemed very certain like less than 5 minutes ago. So make of that what you will. Matt immediately is like, well, it can't be that he, this can't be, there's got to be something up with this. I bet you anything Doctor Strange is in on it. So he immediately starts returning to like conspiracy theory thinking. And then decides that he's going to attack Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, being Doctor Strange, is like, oh, yep, yeah, there's that toxin. Let's just, and just kind of magics it out of him. And is like, there you go. Yeah, you feel better now, buddy?
There's nothing supernatural. I'm just going to, yeet the poison out of you.
Exactly. There's a lot of yeeting going on in this book. Decades before yeet was invented.
It's a very Jay Uso book.
It's like, oh, actually, now that the toxin is gone, I feel great. And so Doctor Strange further is like, yeah, it's a time release associative responsive toxin that had attached itself to the synapses of your cerebral cortex. and activates upon suggestion of the child's innocence, clouding your ability to reason logically. Again, I really want to stress this is such a stretch. It's okay, fine. Anyways, so Matt's like, oh no, I have to find Natasha and apologize right now. And meanwhile, Dr. Strange is like, man, this drug would be so cool to use at raves and frets. What the fuck? Do not give people ideas, Steven. So, so Matt's like, I need to know who is behind this. Is there any way that you could find this out? And so he's like, well, what I can do is I can invoke a demon. You want me to do that? You want me to call it the demon? I can do it right now.
Maybe that's not the best plan every time you got a problem, calling a demon.
He's so excited to call this demon, though. He's like, oh, that's my first solution, and that's the one we're gonna take right now. Follow me. Meanwhile, we cut back to Karen, who's thinking about AIDS. If there's really no other, like my life has been so good. I've done so well until I didn't, and now I'm gonna die. She's just kind of sitting in the park thinking about, how much she loves Matt, and she really needs this relationship to work. Maybe it'll still work. She was wrong to have left him. Blah blah blah.
Back to the demon.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back to the demon. This Doctor Strange is very excitedly summoning a demon. Matt has been told, standard demon stuff, don't talk to it, don't look at it, don't acknowledge it in any way. And he'll handle it. Doctor Strange will just take care of the demon interrogation or whatever. In an inspired move, that will delight everyone. That it's not just any demon that Doctor Strange has summoned. It is Mephisto. Mephisto is back, everyone, just in time for Halloween.
Isn't that the only demon he knows? I feel like
Probably. Matt immediately was like, "Oh, this dude doesn't remember me at all." And Strange is like, "Oh, you've encountered Mephisto before?" Yes, Strange. Everyone has encountered Mephisto.
He literally, we're all on his Christmas card list.
This is the only demon we have. And so he starts hassling Mephisto. Strange starts hassling Mephisto and is like, hey, tell me what I need to know. There's reports that the Christian Redeemer has returned to this plane as a child, and I want you to tell me if that's true. And this guy is like, Mephisto's just like, if there were if the Messiah were to return, it wouldn't be as a child. That was how he came the first time. He would return as he left, which would be as a man. And this makes sense to Matt. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know anything about this or whether or not this is a valid interpretation. I am not here to, again, we don't have our theologians present. This is just what the comic book says. And
I love how that last scene, Mephisto's like, well, if I had a soul for every time someone asked me this question, I'd have like 2 nickels, but that's a lot,
everybody's like, oh, he's back, everyone. But Mephisto then realizes is like there's somebody else, because there's like a blindness spell on him or something, so he can't see that Matt is there. However, he figures it out pretty quickly. And it's like, hey, somebody tricked your friend into believing that this infant savior has been left in his care. How could he be so blind? And it's like, oh no, he knows who I am. And Mephisto starts speaking to him directly. And he's like, yeah, no, I would, if I were there in person, I'd take more than your vision, but I guess somebody else has already beat me to it. They've taken more than you already know. And of course, Matt's like, no, tell me who did this. And, Mephisto was like, hey, good things will come to those who wait. But, the person who's doing this to you, I've reserved a very choice seat, in the pit of hell for them, because they've definitely earned it. They they have really outdone themselves. They're just kind of a third-rate person who nobody suspects. But they've done a really good job just ruining your life. And he references Matt's mother. Sooner or later, every son lets his mother down. And Matt's like, no, Mom. We then cut to Matt rushing back to the church, where his mother is employed as a nun. And they're all the nuns and other people, parishioners. It looks like they were having some kind of like soup kitchen situation. There's people with like trays of food with like forks stuck in them and stuff. It's a kind of a grisly scene. And his mother is barely alive. As he rushes up, everybody else appears to be dead. And she starts kind of getting out that like, somebody whoever attacked them was looking for the baby. And then Matt hears some singing and some nonsense dialogue about the catcher in the rye. Not really important. It's not good dialogue. And Daredevil Bullseye reveals himself by way of some throwing stars. He misses the first three, but that was on purpose. The fourth, he manages to catch in the arm a little bit. They do some fighting. And finally, Bullseye whips out a gun and shoots Matt like in the shoulder. They fight some more. Bullseye does admit to killing all the nuns in church, or most of the nuns anyways, because Matt's mom is still alive. Karen is also there, and she comes across Maggie, and Maggie's like, no, you gotta, Maggie B, his mom, and is like, no, you gotta, don't worry about me. You have to find the kid. And so she apparently goes after, Karen goes after the kid as Bullseye and Daredevil fight. She reappears towards the end of the fight as Daredevil is kind of getting his ass handed to him, and is like, hey, if you let him go, I'll give you the baby. And Daredevil is like, no, don't do it. And she's like, no, here you go. If you let him live, I'll give you this baby right now. And so he is immediately distracted by this, and Bullseye, comes up and takes the baby. And it doesn't last long, because moments later he unwraps it, and it's like a statue of like the baby Jesus. It's not an actual baby. He then takes the statue and like hits her over the head with it, or like throws it at her in such a way that it like hits her in the head and knocks her out. It turns out that Maggie, Matt's mom, the nun, actually has the baby, which then takes that moment to start to cry. And he struggles with her a little bit. Karen happens to find the discarded gun that he used to shoot, that Bullseye used to shoot Matt, pulls the gun on Bullseye, and Bullseye's like, well, that weapon isn't loaded anyway, so I don't give a shit. He takes the baby from her and is like, oh, I almost forgot to give Daredevil back his club, and has Matt's stick thing and flings it at her in such a way that it like goes through her chest like a stake for a vampire. Matt is too late. Matt is not able to stop this. She dies. She just straight up dies on the floor of this church because of the club that's lodged in her chest. That's
Dwash, last issue. Come on, let's do this.
So to recap, Karen has AIDS and died, but not of AIDS.
She gets front page mourning. It looks like,
Yes.
It's her name in there.
Yes.
The 11 others don't matter. Just Karen Page does.
Right. Some nuns and also Karen Page. So the headline of the next day is that, 6 nuns and 5 like homeless people were found dead in this shelter. What has been described as the worst hate crime in the nation's history. God bless how quaint you are, Kevin Smith. This was, I read that and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that probably was in 1998, 99, somewhere in there. That probably did sound pretty bad at the time. And then, it also mentions that radio personality Karen Page was also found dead there, which was something that, people couldn't quite figure out how that happened or why. But it is what it is. We find that the person that is reading this newspaper is Kingpin, Wilson Fisk. Meanwhile, Matt is upset. He is somewhere, presumably at home, I have to imagine, his apartment, with a gun, which he puts at his head and then puts down. Has a flashback where he is talking to Karen about how, she's like, oh, do you have to go be Daredevil tonight? I'd really like to stay in and have sex with you. And so he's like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. We cut back to him and he drops the gun. He's very upset. He smashes a couple things around his apartment just to really hammer home that he's not having a good time. There's another flashback about, with him talking to Karen about, the future and, is he ever going to stop being Daredevil one day? And he's like, well, I figured that, if I ever had a kid, I would stop doing superhero shit because then I would be putting myself at too much risk. And, I wouldn't be able to be a good engaged dad if I were superheroing about, with the baby at home. And Karen's like, that's great. That sounds wonderful. But you just do need to promise me that you're not going to stop being Daredevil because, your job is important as a superhero. You're fighting crime. You're doing the work of God out there. And you shouldn't stop no matter what. So we phase back to him, in the present day, and he's like, "Oh, I won't stop, Karen. I'll keep doing this." And Mr. McCabe's, then we kind of cut over to a shot of him who's like, "Hey, he'll be coming soon. Prepare the gauntlet." Yeah. And meanwhile, at Garth Ennis's tavern downtown, there's a couple of thugs talking at a table.
Sorry, imagery here makes me think of that Batman episode where you have a rock. I hit him with a rock.
That's exactly what is going to happen here. That is exactly what is going to happen here. Kevin Smith is going to turn Daredevil into Batman for a few pages for no fucking reason at all. That is very literally two guys talking about it, like, yeah, I got him one time, and no, I didn't. And then all of a sudden, everybody suddenly disappears, and now we cut to Daredevil, holding this guy by one leg upside down off the rooftop. Again, very like Batman. This is a Batman comic now. We've turned it into a Batman comic. You need to talk. Tell me where this person is, or I'll drop you off this, building. So he's torturing this guy for information. And this guy eventually reveals that some guy has been paying off local criminals for the past month or so. There are a lot of people that are on his payroll. He doesn't know his name exactly, but because the guy wouldn't hire him. But he's got a lot of money, and he wants very badly to get you and some baby. And the guy tells him the address of where all these heavy hitters are meeting up later on this evening. Something big is going to be going down tonight. Meanwhile, in Nakatomi Plaza, on Christmas, a Daredevil is now walking in the snow, into the building. There's a Christmas tree in the lobby, just really hammering all this home. And McCabe's is like, hey, look, once he gets in here, shoot to wound. I'm going to transmit on the high frequency communications channels, what we need to be doing. And let's get this party started. Let's rock and roll. And of course, Daredevil, who's outside, can hear everything that this guy has just said. He fights his way into the building and then continues to fight his way through the building. The quality of the thugs he encounters out from jump are not very good. It only takes him about 17 seconds to fight his way in.
I love how the buttons say white noise door 3 hell.
I wish more places had the hell button. So Mr. Caves is like, hey, Mr. Gabriel, make your preparations. He turns on the white noise so that it's harder for Daredevil to hear what's around him. Daredevil also, too, remember, got shot in the shoulder. So it makes his right arm essentially useless. he's elevatoring up, essentially using the elevator cable. And we cut into what appears to be a very vivid hallucination. The hell button on the elevator apparently is real and really transports you to hell, or what appears to be hell. And Matt can hear Karen begging him for help. Don't leave me here. How could you let this happen to me? And then he realizes that whatever it is he's listening to doesn't have the same heartbeat as Karen. It doesn't have one at all, as a matter of fact. And he manages to rip the clothing off of it and then is pulled out of elevator. Can we call it elevator? By the guy that I mentioned earlier that looks like Beast, that Baal guy, who claims to be Matt's guardian angel since he was born. He was only able to manifest himself when this McCabe guy went after the kid, and he's got two missions, one to protect Matt, and the other is to stop this McCabe guy.
Okay. That's
He then
something.
He then says that he opened an interdimensional ethereal technology portal, which is how angels travel from place to place.
So he's dark side. Got it. He's got a mother box.
Yes, he has a mother box.
Dark side is.
You can really tell, too, that Kevin Smith, though writing for Marvel, did not want to be writing for Marvel. Like,
Well, the bad guys look a little like Cyborg. I mean,
yeah, like there's a lot. There's some RoboCops here. And so he starts going after some RoboCops. This Gabriel guy, or this Baal guy, whoever he is. And Daredevil realizes the fabric that he pulled off of quote unquote Karen in quote unquote hell isn't it's not like rotting flesh. It's some kind of synthetic material. He almost has it identified when all of a sudden there's a high frequency transmission that he can pick up on, and this Baal guy is like, oh, we got to get him. Like, it's, these RoboCops are human. We got to take them out. And Matt's like, wait, I get it now. It's all coming clear for me. And starts attacking.
no one else.
This it starts attacking this guardian angel person. And is like, wait, what are you doing? And then, he drops to the ground. He manages to drop him, and he pulls out something from his chest, some array of mechanisms. And it turns out that this guy is not really like our angel or a mutant or a superhero or anything. He's just like a regular dude that has some kind of device attached to him that is never really fully explained.
In Marvel, they generally refer to this as an image inducer. Nightcrawler uses it a lot. Gotcha.
Yeah. I was just like, sure, yeah, that's a mutant machine or whatever. I don't fucking know. I don't. This is where, like, I shouldn't say this is where it goes off the rails. This has been off the rails since issue 1, but like,
And the dude's ripping the old man from the Monopoly box, just ripping his face off.
like this is where we have to wrap up the story, and Kevin Smith is like, I don't know, man, whatever. So Matt now is even extra determined, more determined to find out who is behind this. He's, Karen's dead. His mom got beaten up. And his head has been fucked with, and he's not having a nice time.
Mm-hmm.
So this McCabe guy is like taunting him over to PA, as Daredevil continues to try to track him through the building. He kicks through a door and finds that the person who is really behind all of this is Mysterio.
Okay.
Issue 7. It's Mysterio. And even at the beginning of this issue, he's like, hey, look, I'm going to be talking a lot during this. So, like, get comfortable. There's going to be no action in this book. And he is. There's a little bit of a dust up between Mysterio and Daredevil, who's like, tell me where the baby is. And Mysterio's like, no, it's here. It's, it's secure. It's actually in a soundproof vacuum chamber somewhere in this building. But from the minute
Batman interrogation, you mean?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, from the minute you came in here, that kid had 20 minutes of oxygen to live. And since you spent 5 minutes beating on me, now there's only 15 minutes. The longer you take, the more likely it is this kid is going to suffocate.
Considering I'm playing the Yakuza game, I know you like that.
It's like, you got a baby in a locker.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking about.
How many Japanese people put babies in lockers?
The Catholics and the Japanese. Okay.
Apparently, it's a whole thing.
I figured you'd enjoy that because that's what I connected to from what you were saying since I'm playing through it the first time.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. This is Yakuza the Daredevil. And so they're like, okay, Matt's like, all right, just take me to this bait. And so he reluctantly follows Mysterio out, as Mysterio decides that this is the part where Mysterio is going to give a lot of exposition about his evil plan. He's like, hey, I'm the best special effects guy around. Everybody else sucks but me. I spent a lot of time coming up with these illusions to fuck with you. I became who I am because of all of the special effects that I did. He does mention, if it weren't for me, the Stan Winstons and the Rick Bakers of this world would be clerking at convenience stores. I see you, Kevin Smith. And he was never respected for all the great special effects work that he did. Never really achieved anything. But it turns out that he went to the doctor at Ravencroft and found out that he has both a brain tumor and lung cancer that cannot be cured or completely inoperable. And it was because of all the special effects chemicals apparently that he used in his special effects. I don't really know.
He was latex is poisonous. I saw that part.
Yeah.
Because of the poisonous fumes from the latex.
Yeah. He was given a year to live. And then they released him, I guess, on, medical leave. And so he was like, cool. Well, I am upset about my diagnosis, so I'm going to do some crimes. And they
released him because he had a year left to live. Is that what I just saw? They're like, yeah, you're going to die anyway. Let's let you go. You're not a threat anymore.
Yeah, that is absolutely it. It's just like, I guess, compassionate leave, if you will, but it seems kind of fucked up. And so he was like, well, it's like hooked up this scheme to go out on my own terms, basically. I'm not going to just die of cancer. That's lame. Instead, I'm going to suicide by cop, basically. Suicide by superhero.
Since Spider-Man's not my Spider-Man.
And since Spider-Man is correct with
that ties into our first.
Yes. Since Spider-Man is currently unavailable at this time because he's a clone, ? I figured that you do. Basically.
You're better than nothing.
Yeah, you're my second choice, but whatever, you'll kill me.
You're not Cyclops, so it's all good.
Right. And I figured that we had more of a connection anyways, because, much like me, you're kind of a D-lister as well. Nobody's ever really fucking heard of you. So this'll basically this'll get you over while taking me out. So he then talks about how he gave a failing desperate Wilson Fisk a couple $10,000 to get information on Daredevil. And Wilson at first is like, this is goofy, but okay. And Mysterio's like, well, I'm not looking to kill him or to fight with him. I just want to drive Daredevil insane. And Kingpin's like, yeah, all right, that sounds dope. For $1 million, I will tell you everything you want to know about Daredevil. And he does. He tells him about the accident that made him blind. He tells him about glasses, books, radioactive waste, nuns, boxing, yellow
Daredevil looking like he's Judge Dredd there.
RoboCop, Robo Daredevil, Foggy looking exactly like he's on drawn. Like Foggy's drawn like he is a member of the Looney Tunes. He looks kind of Bugs Bunny-esque in this. Bullseye, Natasha, Elektra, Karen, Jesus. This is all on this page. Since you can't see this at home. So that's what Wilson Fisk tells him. He tells him about everything. And so, Quentin's like, well, this is, I used that information to plot your undoing. And I looked into the church because I know that you're a man of faith. And I was like, this is how I'm going to destroy your mind is by, fucking with your faith. And I managed to, this is the crazy part. This is, again, where, like, there's so much here that could have gone horribly wrong in this plan. Like, it was all happenstance. He just found a random 15-year-old, really want to stress 15-year-old girl, and drugged her, abducted her, and artificially inseminated her to give her delusions of a virgin birth.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And he hired some more local thugs to kill a bunch of people in the maternity wards. I gave their daughter, or I gave the 15-year-old girl like drugs and like imagery, special effects to make her think that the angels were talking to her. And then so then it kind of, the one piece of information we get here is that apparently those guys that caught up with her, that kidnapped her, that we saw the way back like 4 or so issues ago, just killed her and buried her like in some random forest. She's dead.
No fridge for her. Got it. Just forest.
Just straight up, like literally says, her fate was sealed when I had no further use for her character. That is a quote. And that Lydia McKenzie lady, the rich won't like wannabe divorcee that fuck around with. She had a drug habit. I just gave her a couple fixes of drugs and she did whatever I wanted, including pretending to be a high society divorcee. I also drugged Foggy so that he would hallucinate her as a demon, and the drugs that she was on apparently caused her to kill herself. It's okay.
And that says she ceased to exist.
Right. A little, it just saw to it that she ceased to exist. She flung herself out of a window and died.
Ceased to exist, like the old Monopoly man.
Yeah.
Part 2.
Yeah. The old Monopoly man. It was really him the entire time. Him as being Mysterio. And apparently his real name is Jonathan Curtin, which is kind of funny. And I killed him, took his identity and his money, and then disguised myself so that you wouldn't recognize me. And also I, worked to send Karen to the grave, and I actually thought that was pretty cool. I don't regret that at all. It does mention like it was stupid of her to not get a second opinion from a doctor.
Oh my.
Yeah. He's like, maybe she didn't have AIDS. Maybe she didn't. Who knows? She didn't even ask anybody else. She just believed the first doctor who told her.
Wow. I have no words for that, Heart. I mean, you'd think that would be the first thing someone would do, but no.
Yeah, but ultimately he said, ultimately Quentin Beck, Mysterio, says it doesn't matter whether or not she had AIDS because I was just going to kill her anyway. So he's just,
Oh, this one. Okay, this page, the one before.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, Mr. Gabriel, time to die. Can't have people telling your secrets, Daredevil. That's not fair. But killing a lot of innocent people is.
So Mysterio kills Gabriel. Just kind of is like, hey, look, you've outlived your usefulness. Boom, done. So they continue. So then, Daredevil and Mysterio fight. And he tries to take out the circuitry of Mysterio's suit, which he succeeds. And Mysterio's like, good, I'm glad you did this. I want you to kill me. And of course Daredevil doesn't. He's like, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of that. Please just give me the baby. And Mysterio's like, but I almost made you insane. And I created this dystopian nightmare illusion. And Daredevil's like, bro, you didn't though. Like, you just drugged and killed people. That's not movie magic.
I love this B movie line at the bottom.
Yeah. It was nothing more than B movie material, an amalgam of horrish, cliched devices. Like this, none of this made any sense. You're not very good at your job. You suck at being a villain. And basically just talks about how with a few carefully chosen words, he's just verbally annihilated this man. He's ended this man's like mental life.
Watch as the man dies before.
Yeah, mentally. And he just kind of he dips out, finds the baby, and the baby's fine. The baby is completely all right. He turns to find that Mysterio is aiming some kind of a gun at him, and is like, hey, I don't know who's Mysterio's like, I don't know who's gonna like this more, me or you. And Daredevil's not afraid because he knows what's gonna happen next, apparently. And Quentin says, I stole this one from Craven, and apparently off panel just shoots himself in the head, kills himself.
Did Craven kill himself at some point that way?
I don't really know what this is referencing either. He's like, I stole this from Craven, and then kills himself. I don't know if he meant the weapon or did Craven kill himself? No idea.
Which is weird because Craven very rarely uses guns, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
I just wasn't sure because I didn't think Craven did, so that's why it was weird too.
And then we cut to a panel. Daredevil is walking out, and then Mysterio is dead. Issue 8. Peter Parker is watching the news with Mary Jane about this investigation and in Mysterio's death. And Peter's actually a little sad. He's like, oh man, it's kind of a bummer that Mysterio died. All right.
Horrible person. It's a bummer he died.
And so now we cut to Karen's funeral, and there's a lot of people in the audience that
Karen's funeral. Okay, I thought that was Mysterio's funeral first.
No,
I was very
everybody's coming to Mysterio. No, there are people in the audience I recognize. There are other people I don't. There's the Thing is there. The Fantastic Four is there. Some other folks. It looks like Peter, Mary Jane, Doctor Strange, Clea, and some other folks I can't identify. So I don't know if they.
Is that supposed to be some guy from Wakanda in the background, or?
Yes, that looks like M'Buku.
Okay, that's what it looked like. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, so I mean, I know that she was like a radio personality, but I didn't know she was like this beloved by the superhero community. A little weird, but whatever. I'm sure there's an explanation for this that I don't care enough to find out. Matt attempts to speak to give her a eulogy at the funeral, and doesn't. He starts to is overcome with grief, and leaves the funeral. Peter approaches Matt like at the graveside, essentially in the cemetery, and is like, hey, I think we should talk about some stuff. And Matt's like, I guess, fine. He goes back home, is going through Karen's stuff. Karen has left him essentially a substantial life insurance policy that was the benefit of this new job that she took on the other side of the country. So he has all this money now, and she says that the only thing she wants for him to do is to use this money to do things for himself, to do nice things for himself. Don't spend it on anything other than himself. The next day, Foggy is being picked up after being released from prison into Matt's custody, and Foggy is really only concerned about his girlfriend being mad at him, which again is just disproportionate, but okay. And he tells Matt that his girlfriend Liz came to see him in prison, and all she cared about was not him being attacked or drugged or manipulated, but whether or not whether or not he had intended to cheat on her with this woman who was again sent specifically to seduce him. She does not like that he succumbed to the drugs and the manipulation and is, breaks up with him basically. Foggy's life is kind of ruined by this. But honestly,
bad. Okay.
yeah, like honestly, like maybe it's for the best that they broke up. She doesn't seem very understanding. Meanwhile, later that night, Matt and Peter are meeting up on the top of the Brooklyn Bridge, sharing information about Mysterio. And Peter's like, yeah, man, that really sucks. I'm sorry that happened. It happened to me once a long time ago, but it's I'm mostly over it at this point. It's shown like he's thinking about Gwen. And Nat is also thinking about Elektra as well, who died in a previous podcast episode. And and so they're just kind of, like, hey, well, look, we're trying to do good work, and sometimes this job hurts people that we care about. But we're still doing our best out there. What was this? And Matt's like, what was this even for? Nothing, no good ever comes of any of this. And Peter's like, well, you did save a baby.
That's funny to me.
It was like, yeah, this has all been very terrible for everyone involved, but you did save a baby. And Matt's like, I guess that'll have to do. We then cut over to the outside of an apartment where somebody is knocking on an apartment door. The door opens. It's Nat. She thinks it's Tony Stark for reasons that are stupid. It implies during the course of this comic a lot that she's like obsessed and horny for Tony Stark. I don't, whatever.
Yeah.
The Winter Soldier hadn't been created yet. I need to unclench a little bit about that. But when he is, Natasha is not happy to see Matt, and immediately,
why?
Immediately pulls him in, punches him in the face, and is like, "You have a lot of explaining to do." So he explains everything to Nat. Nat's like, okay, so I'll allow that you may have perhaps possibly been drugged, but you have a lot of fucking issues with women that you need to get a handle on. You treated me like shit. You treated Karen like shit. You treated Elektra like shit. You treated Typhoid Mary like shit. Glory like shit. All of these women that you've been involved with, you've been a real dick to. And Matt's like, are you insinuating I'm a misogynist? And Nat says no, but what she means is yes. But she really genuinely is like, look, you shouldn't, you don't deserve to be alone, but you need to get a handle on how you deal with women and blaming women for your problems. And you need to do some serious, like, internal soul searching before you get out of the dating game again, basically.
Therapy.
That's a 4-letter word in the 90s. That's what this comic said earlier.
Yeah. The final thing that really happens here is that Nelson and Murdoch, the law firm, they start out on their own. So this is kind of the origin story of the Nelson and Murdoch firms, is that Matt uses Karen's money that she left him in her death to found the two of them, since Foggy's mom apparently doesn't want to work with him anymore. And the baby and the mom are, the baby and the mother of the girl, the teen, are talking, and they seem to be in like a maternity ward situation. And the girl, the baby girl.
To make sure I understood, the 15-year-old's mom didn't die. He killed everyone else, but not the mom.
Oh, wait, no. Who is he talking to here? No, that is not her mom. That is just like an older lady. Maybe she works there. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, they never really explain it.
Okay,
yeah,
old lady.
It's just some old lady who's talking to him about, but she seems to have awareness of the situation too, because she's like, oh, this,
And she knows his name, it looks like.
Yeah, so I don't really know who this woman is, and she looks beaten up. Oh, you know what? That might be Matt's mom.
That might be his mother.
Yeah. Oh, that
She's just not dressed as a nun because she does look beaten up. So, but she's not in her nun costume. No, nun uniform, whatever. Habit. There we go. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
So he's talking to his mom about, the baby, whatever. And so the baby is being adopted by a couple in New Jersey. And they were like, all I need to know is like what the baby's name is, was she ever given a name? And he's like, no, but her name is Karen. And then we wrap this up with Matt going back to confession once again, trying to go back to confession once again, and then getting interrupted by another crime that is happening because he's Daredevil and he has to solve this crime. And that is where the book ends up. I'm not going to go into in this trade, there is a like 1/2 kind of expository thing that kind of goes into the backstory of how Quentin got everything organized. It's not very interesting. It doesn't really tell us anything we don't already know. But that's it. That's the book. So there was a lot going on in here.
Yes, very, very 90s. So, Kyle, how did we do explaining this?
I mean, there was a lot there. I see what you mean about the artwork. I enjoyed hearing about the story. But yeah, there was a lot of weird there, but I can see why it would be popular in the 90s versus how it didn't age as well. Yeah. It had to see, like you said, the tie-in, see other Kevin Smith stuff he's working on at the time, as well as just
right.
I mean, it feels like a first comic attempt. I mean, I've read some of the one where he's got the onomatopoeia guy that he wrote. So, like, comparing the two is interesting too. So.
Oh, that's the Batman. Yeah.
Batman.
His Batman. I would suggest out of Kevin Smith stuff, probably my favorite that he did was a Spider-Man Black Cat comic called The Evil That Men Do.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually have a copy of it signed by Kevin Smith, the #1.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, that is my favorite Kevin Smith. But even that one has not aged well. Kevin Smith is very much a product of his time in many of the things that he does. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kyle. And I would say tune in next week for what? But Leia has not decided what the comic is.
Yes, I have not. I need to I was actually just thinking about that the other day. I have about like half a dozen things I got to narrow it down to, but it's going to be good.
So tune in next week for a surprise episode. We will have Dawn Baldwin here, and if you're a fan of the show, you know that anytime that Dawn is on, it's always a good time.
Yes.
Usually my embarrassment is involved. So until then, take it away, Vandello.
Little wreck conversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration ain't elating me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Vandello 2021.